was wrong, we felt it inside. Something told us, do not comply. Turn off the news, turn off the TV. It's time to think, get off your knees. We tried to warn loved ones, oh did we try? We tried to save lives, but we were denied. Sadly we failed and many of them died. We were kicked to the side, we did not hide. We took to the streets, we would not comply. Our conscience told us this was the world's largest lie. At first we were few, but we shortly grew. Melbourne streets saw sights that had never been seen. We fought for our rights, for all to be free. People thrown to the ground, pepper spray to the face. No matter what age, we were locked up and caged. Then the guns came out, they had no care. They shot their own people, running in fear, unarmed and peaceful. We stood for our rights, they would not stop us. We would not give up the fight. We were locked out of cafes, our families withdrew. No Christmas, no birthdays, no celebrations we knew. We were germs, enemies, a danger to you. You watch the counts on mainstream news. No further would you look, we were all cooked. Deluded, brainwashed, segregation we lived through, whilst you lived your life without any clue. People thrown to the ground, pepper spray to the face. No matter what age, we were locked up and caged. Then the guns came out, they had no care. They shot their own people, running in fear, unarmed and peaceful. We stood for our rights, they would not stop us. We would not give up the fight. Something was wrong, we felt it inside. Something told us, do not comply.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're all well tonight. Well, tonight we have the most honourable, dedicated doctor and friend I know. This man's look, actually, I have no more words to say. He's just very dedicated to what he's doing and a heart full of gold. So I'm going to bring Dr. Duncan Symes to the stage. Hi, Duncan. How are you going?
Good. Thanks, Donna. How are you?
Good. We had a bit of problems with the audio, everyone. So thank goodness it's all good now. Good.
Yeah, I'm operating my phone, so sorry to all the viewers that it looks a bit unusual, but anyway, I'm normally on my computer. For some reason that's not working so well tonight.
It's good. It's all good. I am a bit nervous because I didn't think you were going to get on. So, anyway, we find ourselves in a bit of bother again. So this Saturday is a bit of an issue for us. Yeah,
well, listen, it's another, I suppose, another staging post in what's gone on in the last 5 years. So yes, the international health regulation amendments, unless our government, Mark Butler, the Prime Minister, and I think Penny Wong need to sign a rejection of the international health regulation amendments, we are effectively handing over our public health policy for pandemic emergencies to the World Health Organization, and that is, I think, a very big problem for all Australians and for the rest of humanity.
Yes.
And part of the reason I'm on here tonight was that we're obviously, this is a critical juncture in world health policy, and it's critical. It's a critical issue for, I suppose, both the health and freedoms of everybody in this country and around the world.
Yeah. So they've tried this a couple of times over the last few years, haven't they?
Yeah. So, I mean, effectively, what happened in early COVID was the World Health Organization was very much a part of our public health decision making. So it encouraged a lot of the very appalling public health decisions to occur, or encourage them. So, and as a result, we're seeing many problems today, which will continue on into the future. So these amendments are effectively, I suppose, solidifying those decisions, rather than the World Health Organization, if they were a truly, I suppose, independent body thinking about the health of the world, they would be re-examining what actually happened during COVID and actually make a review of all the terrible decisions that were made and come up with probably the original plan that was there before everything was altered in early 2020. Starting with sort of the insane lockdowns.
Yeah. Well, you were affected, extremely affected. Actually, you and your family, weren't you, from what originally happened?
Well, yes. I mean, we were all affected.
Yes, you were affected. Yeah.
Were affected, and but clearly, from a professional sense, if people are unaware, I was suspended for over 2 years for providing legitimate exemptions for patients who did not want to be injected by this novel chemical. And I've spent another year fighting conditions, and I'm now finally back practicing, but under specific conditions. In fact, one of those conditions is that I'm not allowed to talk if I identify myself as a doctor on social media or in other forums. I'm not allowed to discuss COVID-19 vaccinations unless I'm basically espousing the government's view, or what the Australian Immunisation Handbook says, or so clearly I'm not going to discuss them. So I think it's pretty.
I haven't got you in any trouble already, have I?
I haven't crossed any boundaries. So it's totally ridiculous that as a doctor I can't have an opinion on something, and that has to be completely in line with other professionals. I think we're all this is one of the things that the organisation that I'm working with, the Australian Medical Professional Society, is fighting extremely hard to combat, is that we want proper, robust scientific debate about all medical and scientific issues. It has to be respectful, but it be completely rigorous and robust, and there needs to be that sort of discussion to come out with the best possible decisions, not to just accept one side of the story, and that any opposition to that, to a government view, has to be suppressed. And that's what's almost is being is going to occur, with the IHR amendments. I mean, it happened anyway, but these amendments are going to formalise that.
So we can't override them, anything. Once this is through, Australia can't override any of their directions. Is that correct?
Well, no. So it's more subtle than that. So, I mean, often you'll see this discussion about who are going to take over our sovereignty. So technically that doesn't occur. But what's happening is that the Australian government is essentially, by failing to reject the amendments, it is allowing the World Health Organization to direct our public health policy should a pandemic arise. Now, we've got the Biosecurity Act, so whereby if a public health emergency of international concern is declared by the Director General of of the World Health Organization, then our health minister is likely to also concur, and that triggers off the Biosecurity Act. And once that happens, we follow what the WHO recommends. So, and so it's not, I mean, a lot of people have got the impression and that the WHO will suddenly be making decrees that you have to do this and do this or that or lockdown. It will still make the recommendations, but we will be obliged to follow those recommendations because our public health policy makers have deemed that we will follow what the World Health Organization recommends. And at the present time, whether it's be Labor or Liberal, they seem to be very happy to do that. So that's, again, hugely problematic. Now, I suppose if in a hypothetical situation, Malcolm Roberts became Prime Minister, he may say, no, I'm not going to accept that. I'm not going to declare a public health emergency. Then, that would be an interesting scenario. What would happen then? Technically, we'd be legally obliged to, but I mean, that would end up in, I suppose, international courts. It's too difficult for me to work out what would happen should that scenario arise. So
right.
I think it's going to end up coming down to to individuals exerting their sovereign right to refuse to go along with public health recommendations they don't believe are in their best interest.
Right. Okay. Can you see the questions there, Duncan?
Oh gosh. You're going to have to read them out.
I've got my funny glasses on too. That's what I was asking you. Is that also the same for the perceived pandemics?
Yeah. So that's the Director General of the WHO can call a pandemic emergency for a suspected emergency, and we will effectively go into an emergency situation. The Biosecurity Act can be invoked, and then we are then following those recommendations, even if there is actually they're not coming up with any good evidence that there is any risk. So they could call a pandemic for something where nobody's actually died from or had any serious illness. Now, I think that was attempted with the monkeypox. I mean, where very few people were, in relative terms, were had any serious life-threatening illnesses. But Tedros called that. Ultimately, it was a flop because nobody, everybody just treated it almost as a joke.
Yes.
And really it didn't take off. So that is but that's technically that he can do that, and we could then be faced again with a whole lot of propaganda and fear mongering and saying we need to do this, that, and the other. Those emergency rules will be put in place, and there'll be threats and coercion to do certain things.
So can that, Robert's just asking, can that also be involved with the global warming restrictions? Can they do that as well?
As I understand it, yes. They've got very broad terms. So the language is the amendments. The language is very broad and subject to interpretation. So yes, a climate emergency could be used to invoke a public health emergency of international concern. And this is again part of the. It sort of links into the One Health policy, whereby everything, all living things are interconnected and have an influence on everything, and so that allows the World Health Organization through this policy to say, well, climate change is is actually now comes under their control, and so if there's what they call a climate emergency, we need to invoke public health measures to combat it.
Okay.
Hopefully that explains that question from Rob.
Yeah. Well, it does for me. Another question: what happens if they mandate vaccines?
So once again, that will the WHO will make recommendations. It'll be our governments that are and bureaucracies that would actually do the mandating. So just as it happened during COVID, and again, it'll be they will be in close contact with what is the WHO are now recommending every country have, which are international health regulatory bodies, which will be stationed in every country. So they'll be sort of working closely with our bureaucracies to potentially invoke mandates whereby they'll be recommending our governments do certain things, and our governments at this point are very likely to follow those recommendations.
Sorry, we've got lots of questions flying up here. Okay, there's heaps. It's just flying past. Sorry, Duncan. But one thing I read today that they were going to remove the requirement of health measures must respect your human rights and fundamental freedoms. So that will be removed.
That was, they were looking at removing that. I haven't seen whether that has actually been formally removed, but it is. I was looking at Citizen Go today, and George Christensen seemed to indicate that let's say it's been watered down. So that's I can't answer that specifically. I've not read that part of the regulations recently, but certainly they were indicating that they wanted to remove that. They were putting in a language equity and solidarity, or equity and diversity, as opposed to defined human rights, dignity, human rights, and fundamental freedoms. I mean, I think that's sort of an indication of where this is heading. I mean, in essence, our human rights were overridden during an emergency. Yes. Human Rights Commission didn't stand up for our human rights, so it's clear where this is heading. The further down the track we go, unless we stand up, and again, if we have large numbers. Large numbers of Australians and people around the world saying, no, we do not consent to this occurring, it'll be over in a heartbeat, really. But it's the trouble is getting enough people to realise that this is a major issue.
How do we get this out?
Well, again, it's about conducting lots of conversations with everybody you meet. If you whether it's in the supermarket, with your friends, with your family, you conduct those conversations in a manner which makes them think. You don't want to bash them over the head.
It's hard.
It's very difficult to do it, but you need to be able to ask questions to make them think, because they then, by forcing them to think, they then have to start questioning their own things. If you bang them over the head, they put up the defence shutters and shut down.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, it's difficult when you see what's going ahead, and you're trying to tell people, this is very, very bad, both for your freedom and your economic prosperity. That if we don't address it, we're going to be in very deep water. But the human psychology is that most people don't like being beaten over the head with ideas. It's far better to get them thinking and questioning, and that will then ultimately lead them to seeing what the problem is.
Yeah, so I suggest for many of us not to speak to our families about it because we get so emotionally, I, speaking for myself, get so emotionally involved with it, and I end up either begging them, please don't do it, or please do something, or I get angry. So
I completely understand that, Donna, but I think if you're going to get people who have I suppose sat on the other side of the fence to engage them, you have to do it in a manner which will engage them, and asking questions and pointing out or pointing out in a questioning type of way what's a questioning way which is going to make them think, well, actually, the government said this, but when it turned out it was completely opposite. You might have a point there.
yes.
You don't want to be, I suppose, trying to score points is the thing, because then egos get involved and that sort of thing. So you want them to almost think it was, they made the revelation to themselves, because then they're much more on board. That's my feeling.
No, I agree, totally agree. That's why
I understand the emotion, and believe me, I've had a heap of emotion over this time, but it doesn't achieve what we wanted to achieve. We want people to, because my vast opinion is the vast bulk of people are good people, and they believe they're being good people, and they were horrifically misled through a combination of great psychological, not they're great, but very evil psychological tactics to believe something that wasn't true.
Yeah.
So you've now got to gradually bring them back.
Yeah, it's not easy, is it?
No, it's not easy, but that's the challenge that we've been tasked for. I mean, again, the way I look at it is that as people who have been I consider myself fortunate to have been able to I suppose pick up on what was going on through a combination of, I suppose, life experiences and friends and family who potentially pointed me in the right way a long time ago, that I've been fortunate. And had I not had those influences, I may well have fallen for the great hoax.
You never did you? Not even for a minute, did you? I feel like.
Well, listen, I grew up with a very skeptical mother. So she did I suppose some major concerns about government and authorities. So, and through I suppose my life experience, I've had major questioning of authority figures. I've seen enough of them who have been regarded as experts getting things horribly wrong. And I've also, I suppose, I like to think of myself as relatively practical and pragmatic. And what happened early in 2020, I think as Gigi Foster said, it didn't make any common sense what they were doing. It was complete anathema to what I'd been taught previously about public health. And the more that went on, it just didn't make sense. I suppose that was that also helped. And I've always from a very young age, I've always had a big thing about personal autonomy. So when people tell me I've got to do something which affects my own body, it ain't going to fly.
And you're lucky to have a lovely, beautiful wife that feels the same. So
yeah,
a great couple.
So listen, there's no doubt my wife has been fantastic. She's been a rock throughout this. Yeah, it would have been very difficult to do what I've done without her, full support.
Yes.
And listen, and my kids have been great through it, and my parents. Listen, so I've been very fortunate that I haven't the family schisms that were, deliberately created by our government and health bureaucrats. I mean, what they've done to the Australian society is unforgivable.
Yeah, it certainly is. Yeah. So, what's the next step, Duncan, with this?
So, I suppose it's at the present time. I don't. I'd love it if Mark Butler and Albanese turned around and said, no, we're going to reject these amendments. I don't think that's likely to happen, despite the fact that I think there's well over 200,000 signing petitions to do that. And they're probably the 200,000 who are. Well, there's probably more, but not a lot more who are sort of aware of what the WHO, the IHR amendments mean. Most of Australians still are really unaware because of the lack of discussion by our politicians and our mainstream media outlets. It's again, they're effectively controlled by the big business who have also big stakes in the pharmaceutical companies. So they don't want this discussed, because I think if most people are aware of it, they'd say, no, we don't want any part of this. We don't want an unelected, unaccountable, unknowable bureaucracy directing our public health policy, and causing more taxpayer money going off overseas to essentially Big Pharma, which is what is effectively going to happen with these amendments. It's setting up a massive business deal, which Big Pharma is going to reap the dividends, and it's all going to come from the taxpayers who are being hammered left, right, and centre. So that was the point of the AMPS commissioning the Follow the Money report. So again, if people are unaware of it, AMPS has commissioned a report by an author who wishes to remain unnamed, but she's gone through the WHO documents and shown that of the top 100 donors to the World Health Organization, they're intrinsically intertwined with big pharma, and there's lots of cross links between them. Big pharma don't donate money just for because they're nice people. They donate it because there's a payoff at the end, and that's what the report in essence shows, that there's huge conflicts of interest with the World Health Organization and their donations, their donors, which all have lots of links to Big Pharma. The IHR amendments effectively set up a situation where Big Pharma is going to take a lot of taxpayers' money off to build more Big Pharma, make the Big Pharma industrial complex even bigger.
So we're actually paying for our own demise, really, aren't we?
That's what'll happen if it keeps going through. But I remain optimistic that we can get people to be aware and not go along with this. And it'll come down to I have no faith in our the vast majority of politicians in this country. Not again say that they're necessarily bad people, but they're kept ignorant, and they're essentially sort of actors for sort of senior bureaucrats who are sort of coordinating a lot of this. So it's going to come down to getting the people to rise up and say no.
Oh no, come back. What just happened? Let's just hope Duncan comes back on. He couldn't get his computer working for the people that's come on a bit later. So he's gone on his phone. But hopefully that'll come back on. Hi, Robert. Could AMPS be able to take on the role of APRA? Well, that's a question for Duncan, obviously, but I feel like that was part of the plan when it first all came out. I feel like that's what they were trying to do, if I remember correctly.
Is that better? I'm not
sure.
You're
back. Thank you.
I'm not sure what happened there.
No, but I'm glad you're back. Robert's just asked, could AMPS be able to take over the role of APRA? Now, just so you know, everyone, Duncan is now the president of AMPS. He's taken on that role. So good one to ask. What do you think, Duncan? You're going to take over APRA?
Listen, we're certainly that's a very interesting question, Robert. AMPS is a industrial organisation, effectively like the AMA, or sort of an alternate to the AMA. We've not seen ourselves becoming APRA. I think APRA is a massive problem. It has connections with the World Health, it's partnered with the World Health Organization, which again is problematic for health professionals, because they will be, they're sort of will be working in cahoots with the World Health Organization. We think that the APRA, basically, its wings need to be severely clipped and returned to just a registration body. It is clearly overreached its authority. It's targeting doctors. There's political there's political persecution of health professionals who go against the narrative, so to speak. And I certainly consider that I have been one of those targeted, but there's been others who have been targeted far more harshly. So the targeting of Dr. Valerie Pierce is appalling. She's now currently been in court many times, and that is it's just appalling how they've behaved. So I'm no friend of APRA, but I certainly don't believe AMPS should become a new APRA. I think we should ultimately return to having the state boards being the sort of the regulatory bodies, or potentially sort of even smaller local boards where people are elected to the boards, not selected. So at the moment, excuse me, the medical boards are essentially they're either political appointments, or effectively political appointments, or they're put forward because of certain colleges. I think we need there's health professionals that are actually elected by their peers to the boards, and there should be sort of a regular, I suppose, turnover of the medical boards, and have different people on them. So I think that's I mean, there's a lot to be discussed in that space, but we believe APRA is not fit for purpose. We're trying to have discussions with them, but they really are not interested. And I think the vast majority of health professionals don't have a favourable opinion of APRA, but many of them are fearful because of the power that they have in essentially destroying health professionals' careers without due process or a manipulation of the process, and that is hugely problematic because ultimately it's the public who suffer because it makes the health professionals, I suppose, can be manipulated by this organisation because they're fearful for their own careers. So, I mean, their position statement back in March of 2021 had actually no legal basis, but it was enough to scare the vast majority of health professionals into behaving in a fashion which, they were essentially being threatened with their livelihood. So that's why quite a significant number went along, even though I don't think they felt comfortable with it. That's the scenario, and we don't want that happening because that can be repeated. You can't have a regulatory body doing that.
I'll just quickly tell you, Robert, who's asked a few questions here, he goes into chemists, and he went into a chemist and spoke to the pharmacist there, and his wife actually died from the vaccine, and he said that she did, but
Yep.
he was still vaccinating, or jabbing, I should say.
This is wow. Anyway, it's not.
Oh, you can't talk about that. Sorry. I forgot.
He's reporting an event. I acknowledge that. I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah,
I think it's
sorry.
You can probably see what I've said in the past about it at rallies, etc. But I can't talk about it on social media, which is it's a ludicrous situation that I be allowed to talk about it without the fear of repercussions. We should be able to. I'm very happy to talk about it in a polite, scientific manner. Even though the emotions run very, very strong in relation to this issue.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, and next question is: can they force vaccinate us? I presume she means, and go to Mickleham camps. Mickleham, the camp they made.
All right. So
do that.
In relation to that, they've talked about quarantining, people who are suspected of maybe harbouring a disease, or I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe they've got too much carbon and they want to stick them in a camp for that. So that is within the new IHR amendments. That is.
It is.
There that people who are suspected, you don't have to have the disease, you just have to be suspected that they've had contact. That is certainly a possibility, and again, it won't be the WHO saying they'll recommend, it'll be your actual governments and health, other bureaucrats who will organise that.
Right.
So yes, again. So what we've got to get people to be fully aware of that this, what happened in COVID can happen again. It can happen to a greater degree. So. Now the other thing is that they haven't mentioned lockdowns in the IHR amendments. However, the wording could be, because of the vagueness of the wording, that could include sort of, in pragmatic terms, lockdowns. Okay, so they haven't mentioned it in there, but yes, that could occur, even though we're we're aware of how bad those lockdowns were for everybody, and the economy, and again, destroying small business, which is hugely problematic because small business is the backbone of any democracy.
Yeah, they destroyed people on all levels, didn't they? It wasn't just
along with the importance of free speech. So that's clearly they're progressively clamping down on that through they couldn't get the mis and disinformation bill, but I've got no doubt that that will be tried again at some points. They're obviously using the under 16 social media bill to restrict people's access to information. So part of this is having control, having greater control of the narrative. I think what has, I suppose, become evident over the last 5 years is the explosion in alternative media and how that's always rivaling mainstream media for sort of audience participation. I mean, it's I suppose it's splintered over various different podcasters and freedom channels, but it has allowed a lot more people to be aware of what's going on and access to information, and that is a problem for the authorities, or the I don't like to call them, in fact, authorities, the people who are running who are trying to run the show.
Trying to run the show, yes. I also read today, Duncan, I just did as much reading I could, that they're going to have new enforcement bodies that will operate under the WHO directives without accountability.
Sorry, say that again.
New enforcement bodies. So they'll have...
they're called they'll be called the International Health Regulation focal points. So they will be the sort of the conduit between the WHO and government and bureaucracies in making sure the sort of the recommendations that the WHO is putting forward I suppose are being effectively complied with. So who will make these recommendations? Yes, technically, they're not overriding our sovereignty. Our governments are actually are doing what they're doing to us, not because of direct instructions from the WHO, but because they've essentially accepted what the WHO's recommendations are, and the IHR are making sure that those recommendations will be are being followed. They'll also be probably centres for where surveillance of I suppose potential pathogenic pathogens will be found to sort of create potential future pandemics as well.
So how will they enforce this though? See, I understood that totally differently. New enforcement bodies will operate under the WHO directives without accountability.
Yeah, so as I understand it, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, there's going to be a thing called the IHR focal points. So they're essentially an organisation which is taking orders from the WHO. Yeah, they follow, but they are. So our government has said yes. If they don't reject the amendments, those bodies will come into being. They will then work with bureaucracies and essentially government to make sure that those recommendations that are being put forward are being followed, and that the government is, I suppose, not is following along those. So the enforcement will come through, our own sort of public health bodies, so which may involve you using potentially police or the army or that. I mean, obviously, they can potentially ask overseas United Nations forces to come in, and if they felt there was a real problem. So that's a concern because of the legislation that was passed prior to COVID starting. I mean, that's hugely problematic that we can have foreign troops enter our soil, and then they will be given immunity from any acts that they perform in a public health emergency. So
free range.
So if our police and our military said, no, we're not going, we're going to stand down, we don't believe we should do this, potentially they could bring in UN troops or overseas troops to I suppose, force compliance.
Yeah, that's what I was concerned about.
You can correct me on that, but that's the way I understand it. Yeah,
that's how I took it.
Yeah. All right. So again, I think it was just a slight misunderstanding of the question, but yes, that's a definite. That is a definite potential.
Well, I think that sort of happened anyway, didn't it? It's already happened. But now they're saying, so they will have free range on us basically and have no accountability. They'll just do whatever they want to do.
Well, again, this is where I suppose I want to frame it in a more a light that if Australians stand up, large numbers of Australians stand up, it's going to make it very difficult for them to do what they want to do. There's no doubt that if we sort of just say, oh well, there's not much we can do, they can effectively do what they want, then they probably will. But I believe that ultimately that there are enough Australians who will stand up when it gets critical to say no, we're not going along with this. I have to remain positive like that. And
yes,
as I suppose I like to think of, we have all this potential energy to create a new and better Australia from where we're going, and you and many of the freedom warriors and people who I admire, who've stood up and lost so much during this time. They're an inspiration for me to keep going and doing what I'm doing, and ultimately, even though times have been very, very hard and sort of it's never ending. By standing your ground and standing up, it is changing. There are more and more people who are aware, and I think I don't know how close we are to making the turnaround, but I know that there are more and more people aware of this, and they're aware, not necessarily of the IHR amendments, but are aware of the scam that's being played, and that gives me hope that we can turn this thing around.
Yeah, I agree. And I thank you, Duncan, and your family and your associates, all the people that you've been involved with, and all the help you've given us and Forest of the Fallen as well over the years. And I feel very privileged to have met you, and thank you.
As I've been privileged to meet you and so many people. I mean, this has been one of the incredible thing. Incredible, I suppose, bright spots in all a lot of darkness, is the amazing and courageous people who I've met and admire and deeply respect, and as I said, I know things are tough, but stay true to yourselves, and just believe in your own inner power, that and belief that we will turn this round. We are positive energy for change, and energy can't be destroyed. It's going to keep. We're going to keep pushing back. We've got truth on our side. We've got love on our side. We want a better society, a better world, this is, I suppose, we're at a tipping point. I know the tipping point seems it's a long journey, but I suppose the spectrum of time, it's relatively a short space of time.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much, you and the audience.
Please let us know what we can do to help. I wanted to get a link in here too, but if you can send me information on the lady you said, the one that hasn't said her name, that's done the papers. She's done some paperwork. If you can send me a link. Sorry?
She did the report. So she basically, so the report is follow the money.
Follow the money. Okay. Yeah, beautiful. All right.
So people want to sort of see how intertwined the WHO is with Big Pharma. It's you can, even if you just read the first page, which is I suppose just gives sort of a summary of what's in it. It shows that Australia does not want to be associated with an organisation that is so conflicted in relation to public health policy, that it's hugely. The WHO is essentially controlled by Big Pharma interests, from what we can see in that report. They make no in the IHR amendments. Just finally, they make have no discussion about any natural treatments, vitamins, herbs, supplements, which have been shown to be highly effective during COVID. It's all focused on pharmaceutical products, and they've even included cell and gene therapies in the IHR amendment. So you can see sort of where it's heading.
Yes. Okay. All right, Duncan. Thank you very much. We've got it. Robin's on next, I think, guys. So keep tuned. Thank you. Send my love to the family. Take care, Duncan. Thank you. Bye. And here we go again, guys. See if I can get this going.
Something was wrong, we felt it inside. Something told us do not comply. Turn off the news, turn off the TV. It's time to think, get off your knees. We tried to warn loved ones, oh did we try? We tried to save lives, but we were denied. Sadly we failed and many of them died. We were kicked to the side, we did not hide. We took to the streets, we would not comply. Our conscience told us this was the world's largest lie. At first we were few, but we shortly grew. Melbourne streets saw sights that had never been seen. We fought for our rights, for all to be free. People thrown to the ground, pepper spray to the face. No matter what age, we were locked up and caged. Then the guns came out, they had no care. They shot their own people, running in fear, unarmed and peaceful. We stood for our rights, they would not stop us. We would not homes, our families withdrew. No Christmas, no birthdays, no celebrations we knew. We were germs, enemies, a danger to you. You watched the counts on mainstream news. No further would you look, we were all cooked. Deluded, brainwashed, segregation we lived through, whilst you lived your life without any clue. People thrown to the ground, pepper spray to the face. No matter what age, we were locked up and caged. Then the guns came out, they had no care. They shot their own people, running in fear, unarmed and peaceful. We stood for our rights. They would not stop us. We would not give up the fight. Something was wrong, we felt it inside. Something told us do not comply.